I didn't do the eye cream. Always something. Always forgetting something. Alright, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here ever, welcome for the first time. So on Fridays, we usually do like makeup things and talk about things that are related to Second Life or virtual worlds or virtual spaces in general, maybe some games. I don't know where this is going. But instead of doing makeup today, I'm actually going to be doing a skincare routine and talking about something that I asked a lot of you guys on Facebook, Discord, and Instagram. You know, what are some of your experiences with mental health issues and how has SL impacted it, if at all? Sorry if you can hear a bunch of shit in the background. This is literally my third time recording this video because I'm really fighting this camera. But there's construction right outside my window and I usually try to film at night because of it, but if I don't do this now, I won't have any time at any point. Can we test that? All right, so I asked a bunch of you guys on Facebook, Discord, and Instagram about some mental health issues that you have or that you know of that SL has had some sort of impact on. And now, while I do speak a lot about Second Life because, you know, that's the platform that I play on primarily, I think a lot of what people had to say and what like I feel in general can relate to a lot of virtual spaces and virtual communities that we are a part of. And I think, you know, as we lean into having more virtual experiences and connecting with people more virtually, some of these things are really important and just really interesting to hear about. Overall, there seems to be a lot of people that do experience some sort of anxiety, depression, social anxiety, and that seems to be pretty commonplace in SL. And for the most part, people had a lot of positive things to say about their experience with SL in relation to some of those mental health issues that they experience. I'm gonna read a couple of responses. I'm gonna start off by exfoliating my lips. So I'm actually going to do my nighttime skincare routine. I did film this last night. Literally, this is my third time filming this video. I don't know how like enthused I'm gonna be. I was also up till 3 o'clock in the morning filming this one. Whatever, we'll live, we'll survive. But I'm a little tired and I think I look a little tired. And also like this is the first day on camera that I haven't put on that self-tanner I've been using. So I feel like a little pale. Let me get to it. But I feel like anytime there's even like a moderate change in temperature or the weather, my lips like get crazy. So I always do a little bit of a lip scrub. Right now I'm just doing this honey and sugar mix, like a homemade lip scrub. I had this Lush one, I can't find it, so I just put this together. Super easy, organic honey and sugar. For me it's a little stressful because I stopped consuming sugar in January, so I haven't had any like sugar or anything. I should have used sweetener, but I mean there's still the honey, so I don't know. This will be my first time like tasting. But I was full-blown addicted to sugar for a while, like all my life. So that was a big lifestyle change. And literally it just looks like a glob. Looks like a little blob. I use a toothbrush to kind of put it on and, you know, just rub it in. I don't usually do this at night because I like to do it right before I put on my makeup because it makes your lips a little plump. But yeah, so with that mess, I just go in circles on my lips. And I would normally go in with like a warm face cloth and wipe it off, but like I'm just gonna use a makeup wipe. And directly after you exfoliate, you always want to moisturize. I'm actually using this Badescu lip balm, and I'm obsessed with this stuff. I use this like all day long religiously, and of course it makes lip product a lot easier to put on. All right, so while my lips suck in that like moisture goodness, I'll read a couple of these responses here. The next step, of course, I'm gonna go in with a cleanser on my face, but first I wanted to see, so El Revol says, depression and anxiety, expressing my creativity with releasing things I love to create has helped me mentally. It makes me feel like what I'm doing is worth it, and to see people enjoy the releases makes me smile. So I noticed that's another thing too. SL is full of so many creatives. Like you meet creative people all the time that it's almost the norm for, if you're in SL, you're very likely to be creative. And the really cool thing about it is, you know, I think in real life there are opportunities where if you're creative, you may not get as big of an audience as you can get pretty easily in SL. So I think that's really, you know, it really does give some of your hobbies and some of your interests, you know, it feels like it's purpose because people are really enjoying them, and you get to see that feedback, you know, directly and almost immediately, which is, I think, one of the really cool things. Especially, you know, I feel like we live in a time where people like instant gratification, and you get that in SL because, you know, there are so many communities outside of SL itself. Because, you know, to complement Second Life, people also have Second Life Facebooks, Twitters, Instagrams, Flickrs, YouTubes. So you get a lot of opportunities to connect with other people who may be enjoying the things that you create, which is pretty awesome. All right, I'm going to pen back. This wig needs some plucking, honey, like really bad, some serious plucking. We know I like my clips, maybe baby. Also, I've been feeling like some type of way about being in front of camera with no makeup on whatsoever. All right, so I have a bunch of options. So I'm honestly going to use a lot more products now than I normally do in my nighttime routine. However, I do really like buying skincare things and trying lots of skincare things, and I don't ever want to just like buy it and waste it and not put it to use. So I do have a bunch of different beauty or skincare routines. I would say like on average 3 to 5 days of the week I'm probably doing something a little different or using different products. There are a couple that are consistent. Like I got the Fenty, the whole set, like the cleanser, the toner, the moisturizer, and I am absolutely in love. And I do see, you know, I've been using it since, you know, I was pre-ordered. As soon as they came out and they were shipped out, that's how long I've been using it at this point. And I do see a visible difference. Like I think things are just a lot more smooth. I feel a lot brighter. I almost feel like it has that like makeup effect, although I have no makeup on. So that's what my skin's looking like right now. But I can't tell like what's working, what's not working, because I've been using all 3 products all together. So I'm just gonna keep using them. And I use those twice a day usually. But also my other favorite brand is Mario Badescu. And this one, so I got this botanical face gel. This is my first time ever using this product. I never used it before. It smells really good. It's really soft and like creamy, and it's been really good to remove makeup. Granted, a lot of times when I'm removing makeup, I use those Neutrogena wipes. Neutrogena. I also have this Glycolic foaming cleanser. I don't know if it's Glycolic or Glycolic, but I'm a huge fan of glycolic acid. Now, just the thing to remember, glycolic acid is like chemical exfoliant, but I do think having an exfoliant in your skincare regimen is super important. I use them at least, you know, 3 to 4 times a week. I know it's supposed to be like 2 to 3 times a week, but I have really oily skin, so it doesn't dry me out. I remember when I was a teenager, I was like following the fads, but I wanted to get Proactive, and I didn't have acne at the time, but what happened is my skin got really addicted to Proactive. So when I tried to stop using it, I was getting acne and I was breaking out a lot more. So what I decided to do is just kind of follow the regimen that Proactive was, because Proactive, you know, they have an exfoliant, cleanser, a toner, and a moisturizer. So I've stuck with that basic formula for everything, so that no matter how many products I change up, those are the 3 things that I typically use. And you know, you don't have to spend a bunch of money. When I first did that, so I was like early 20s, late teens, I immediately started using like the Cleanse and Clear, you know, the one with the little beads in it, and that is my moisturizer or my cleanser. And then I would use their same toner, and it's the same toner I still use to this day because it has salicylic acid in it, and salicylic acid is great for acne prevention. And although I don't get like a full face of acne, I get very hormonal breakouts. So my chin and my like jaw and neck area, that's where I break out, and that is where I scar. So I always look like I got a little pimple beard, but you know, what are you gonna do? That's where I break out. So I like having salicylic acid. I realized after using some of these other products that I use that using like a salicylic acid cleanser was a little too harsh for me. It was like giving me dry patches or kind of burning. But in a toner, it's great for me. Glycolic acid works great as an exfoliant for me. I only do it a couple times a week now. I honestly was doing it every day for a while, but again, really oily skin. It didn't have a big impact on me. If you don't have oily skin, it'll probably dry you out real quick. Even if you have like moderate skin, it'll probably dry you out, but it wasn't drying me out and I was doing fine. I don't recommend it though, because I guess, you know, the reason for oily skin is lack of moisture, so your skin doesn't like retain hydration as well. So using an exfoliant too much can kind of make it worse. I'm probably not going to use that one today because I used it last night in my skincare video and it's only been like 8 hours since then. So I'm gonna go with this one, this botanical facial gel, and all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna like splash my face with water and then I'll be back to work it in. So burb. For skincare, even like water temperature kind of matters. So usually when I'm going to put on my first cleanser, I like to wet my face with warm, like lukewarm water. So this is really, it's a gel, so it's not gonna like lather up, but again, if you have makeup on, you'll see it lift all of your makeup off. I don't know, for me that's satisfying. I like it. It's super lightweight. Again, this is something you can use twice a day, but I do tend to use honestly 2 cleansers because sometimes I wash my face when I first wake up and then I'll wash my face when I'm ready to like go start my makeup or my day. I'm going to go rinse this off. I'm gonna rinse it off with warm water because I'm going in with a second cleanser after this. Or no, I think I might do a face mask. And another thing I really like to do for my nighttime routine, I like to use a warm towel and like dry myself off. But honestly, sometimes, like especially in the daytime when I'm doing my morning routine or something, I don't even dry my face off. Like I will let it air dry because I'm usually multitasking in the morning. So if I've just rinsed off my cleanser, I'm probably like going out to steam a shirt or check an email or check a Slack or whatever. So while my face dries a little, because also I noticed last time I recorded this video, I finished my skincare routine like that and had a bunch of stuff to sales talk about. So I'm gonna let this air dry. I'm gonna look at some more of your responses. So a lot of people said that they have depression and that SL has helped it. Some people didn't go into detail. This one I'm going to skip Gib, because she asked why I asked. So I'm assuming she does not have a channel. All right, and even says depression, but Second Life is more of a distractor than a helper. I can kind of relate to this because I do think, so for me, I'm going to talk about like my own experiences with mental health issues and how prevalent SL has been during those times. I'll get more into that. But someone else says depression, anxiety, and bipolar. SL is supposed to be my relaxation and stress-free environment, but SL can also trigger depression and anxiety. Not all the time. When I'm with family, it calms me, but when people bring drama into it, drama and lies, it can make me feel like I'm in a dark room in a corner. So that's another thing. So a lot of people, you know, attribute overall SL really helps with some of these issues. However, it's usually other people that kind of have a negative impact on their mental stability, well-being, or health. But what I find interesting about that is, you know, you're on a platform where you have such like a modge podge of so many different, you just have so many different types of people. And I think even just doing a quick Q&A like this, asking people like what issues they have, the fact that so many people answered, the majority of everyone that answered on all three platforms and personally to my DMs, all expressed some sort of issues with social anxiety or depression. So I'm wondering, just like having all of those people together on top of people who just may be a little anxious about things, but on top of people who are just like, you know, being assholes behind the keyboard, it really makes it a tough environment for your kind of mental well-being. But, you know, it seems a lot of the people say the positivity kind of outweighs that negative aspect. All right, so that has dried on my face. I am gonna do a face mask. So I'm not gonna like put this in front of the camera because it looks gross because it's all spilled out, but this is the Rose face mask from Fresh Beauty. If you've never used Fresh Beauty products, like I highly recommend. Their cleanser is really also good for removing makeup, and it's really soft and it smells really good and it brightens. Like you look soft and dewy and like beautiful. This little face mask I really like because, you know, I'm used to a lot of face masks that like get hard on your face and they dry. But if you're looking for something just like light and kind of calming and relaxing, I really like these. I'm really like big on smells. Now what I was trying to figure out is if I wanted to do this before I did, because I'm going to use a Fenty cleanser. I'm gonna still use that Fenty cleanser after this. I'm gonna lay this on thick because I just got a new bottle of this and this one's running out and I kind of want to get rid of it. This is like a little glass jar, so it could totally be repurposed if you're into that kind of thing. I like these because what I'll probably end up doing is, also there's little rose petals in it. That's what these big chunks are gonna be. Sometimes I make my own face mask, like out of turmeric or stuff, or my lip scrub I can put in here. I could just toss it in one of these little containers. So I'm usually like a 20-minute mask kind of girl. Like no matter what the instructions say, I always leave a mask on for 20 minutes. One, because I forget about it, and this one is super easy to forget about because it's so light. It doesn't feel like anything's getting hard on your face. Oh yeah, and I have these little like mask applicators. I don't know what they are. I got them on Amazon. They're super cheap. I'll link them. I have a bunch of them, and I get all these like little like pot things, and that's what I usually mix like the face mask that I make in. If you guys want a video on some of the masks that I make at home, let me know because your girl experiments. I'm gonna leave it on for 10 minutes. So Veronica says, SL helps me a lot with my mental state, depression and anxiety, and a matter of creativity. People, not so much. I've never met so many vile, spiteful people in real life like I have in SL. So many people are playing fringe just for their own benefit, ready to stab you right in the back. Somehow games and virtual worlds attract many people like that because it's easier to hurt others on the other side of the screen. So I pretty much stand on my platform all the time, creating, avoiding people to avoid getting worse with the mental state. So that's interesting. So that's the other thing that is, I think, pretty unique to SL as a virtual community when you're thinking about it through that lens, is that it is also, it attracts both types of people, like people who are interested in the virtual aspect, but also people who are interested in gaming. You know, we've had this conversation a bunch of times on this channel that, you know, there is something about gaming communities that kind of bring out really volatile personalities or attract, you know, that kind of behavior, or attract people who really just want to be into trolling or anything like that. So you have like a mix of both worlds when you're in SL. But the really interesting, unique thing about SL is you don't necessarily have to engage with other people. Like, it is a social platform, and I think it was made intentionally with the intention of, y'all, this construction is getting on my nerves. I'm sorry y'all can hear that. But yeah, it was made with the intention of being social. So, you know, there's that. But there's so much you can do in world where you don't necessarily have to be social. I'm probably one of those people a lot of the times when I'm in SL, like off of YouTube, I'm kind of just spending time with myself. And I think that is where a lot of kind of that healing comes from that people talk about. And that's how SL kind of helps you with a lot of mental health issues, is that you have these moments to be really self-aware and really kind of focus in on what you enjoy. But, you know, anytime you have a mix of people from all over the world dealing with potentially their own mental health issues, and whatnot, and just like some of them just also being assholes because they're behind a keyboard. There's just a really wide range of personalities that you can come into contact with. Swain also says anxiety, OCD, PTSD, and grief. Jessica, all the main ones, agree with the other ones, and depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, agoraphobia, or loss. So I'm going to talk a lot more about agoraphobia and my experiences with it, because that is something that I've had to deal with a lot. And I think, you know, when you're on a platform that really, it has no purpose, it feels very much like a game, because there are a lot of game mechanics in it, and people who do participate on that side of SL really do experience it as a game. But when it has like no purpose and there's nothing you can lose, it can be very addictive. So we'll talk a little about that. This is my signature loop. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. But she also says anxiety, PTSD, grief, panic attacks, and bipolar type 2. It has helped me a lot. Creating an avatar gives a sense of control that I thought I lost. It helps socialize again with a depression that comes with mood swings that causes me to isolate myself in real life when it's at its worst. But being in a virtual world, it was definitely baby steps to be around others. Plus I have friends on here that ask just basic things of how you're doing. It might be small, but in real life I have my friends and family that relies on me, so they assume I'm fine. That's another thing that I kind of want to point out. You know, I think we always hear people say like check in on your strong friends, because I think what tends to happen in real life, if you're good at hiding your shit, you tend to come off as just like having all of your shit together. But usually what we see is people that are really good at hiding it are really fighting some pretty major demons. But when you are good at hiding it, you know, come off like you have it together, like you're happy, like you're kind of in control of things. And what tends to happen is people tend to rely on you for the heavy stuff. You know, you become the ear, you become the one that people rely on emotionally. You know, I think I relate to that a lot, because for me, a lot of my issues aren't conscious, and I'll talk about that later. But you know, my brain doesn't necessarily realize something's going on before my body does. So my body will react and things like get crazy and shut down. But a lot of times it looks like I have my shit pretty much together when it comes to just my emotional range. It also comes from the fact that I don't just display my emotions all that much. You know, I think the other day I was talking about something and I was like, yeah, I'm so excited. Like, that's my range of excitement. Like, my emotional range isn't very wide to begin with. I've also come from a place where something is wrong, I'm going to do my damnedest to hide it. Not even consciously at this point anymore. But when people see that, they just assume you kind of have, you know, things together. So I tend to be the person that just kind of listens to other people's events. You know, I don't mind it. You know, I think there are a lot of people that take on that baggage. If they have other people talking to them, they kind of take on all that pain and that baggage. And maybe I do. Maybe that's why I have random meltdowns. But consciously, it doesn't feel like it. So I'm usually that person. But when you are that person for a lot of people, you know, it's very rare for people to really, you know, ask how you are or wonder how you are, because they assume you're fine. Check on the ones that you usually rely on, or the ones that don't share much, because I'm also that person that's not going to share. If something is wrong, I'm probably going to withdraw if I feel like you've noticed, in all honesty. So also she says SL has helped me prioritize myself over others, especially when some relationships have ended or got ugly. I'll be fine regardless. SL is just one coping option I have to maintain balance and better mental health. A lot of people are saying that they use SL kind of as a coping mechanism, because that's another thing that happens in SL. I feel like you become very self-aware. All right, so Rogue Rollins, I'm an introvert Aspie who lives with depression and anxiety. SL is a break from my hectic everyday life. It allows me to be anonymous, gives me the autonomy needed to chat with others. Using text, I can take the time needed to think up my responses. When I'm tired or no longer interested in conversation with someone, I TP away. So that, I mean, that is the kind of the benefit of SL. If you are done with conversation, you're done with the conversation. You know, sometimes in real life, you kind of have to find your way out, and it takes a while, and that could be emotionally draining in and of itself. On the other hand, there are lots of people that complain when someone has gone silent or gone away. So, you know, there are like SL social norms, but I feel like, you know, as you become more self-aware, and as you become, or as you just come to realize that everyone here very likely has their own shit going on, but it's so much easier to just like end a conversation very quickly. Like, oh, gotta go, be right back, real life calling, something like that. You can always get out of something really quick. This saves me from the awkwardness of trying to extricate myself from conversations. Being the person behind the avatar has given me courage to try things that I would never try in real life. SL is a break when I need to unwind and disconnect from my everyday. You could say SL is one of only 2 vices I have. Logging in every few days is not hazardous, and it works to relieve a bit of stress. I used to read books, lots and lots of books, to disappear into other worlds. Now I have another outlet, and because I work in SL, it's not nearly as expensive as my ravenous book habit. I now spend half as much on books. Spending less money is anxiety relieving itself. So I found this to be very interesting, because I find that a lot of people that I meet in SL are also like book lovers and love to read. I myself, I love to read. I love fiction, and I did, you know, do that a lot even before finding SL. I mean, even after, I guess I still do. Probably not as much. I don't know if that's just me being busy in real life or if like SL. But there's always this just interest of mine. It's why I love fiction. It's why I like to write fiction. It's kind of this idea of just escaping into another world. And you know, SL is a platform where you can literally do that, whether it be something realistic or fantasy driven. You know, I know in fiction I like to read a lot of fantasy and horror. Has it been 10 minutes? There were actually a couple of responses where people talk about when they'd gone through trauma and SL like really helped them cope or helped them kind of get comfortable with the new normal. You know, I can relate to that. I don't know for me if it was a completely positive thing. So, you know, 2019, I had a bunch of loss in my life, like grandmother, aunts, cousins, like a lot of people died, and tragic. And for a couple of those, I did dive into SL fully. And we'll kind of talk about my experience with SL. I don't know if it was necessarily me dealing with it or just kind of escaping from it, or you know, using SL as a crutch, which I think can also happen. All right, second star to the right says social anxiety. It's helped me a lot. I lost my fiance last year and have found loving and caring friendships that have spilled over into real life. So I talk about this often. I need to get this off my face, but you know, I think there is a potential to really connect with people in virtual spaces almost stronger than sometimes meeting them in real life first. And it's because you really get to know the person, you know, behind all this, behind what they look like, behind, you know, and not just about their history, but more so like what their history has taught them and who they are just as a human being, and you know, what some of their aspirations are, what their goals are, what their like code of ethics and their morals and their beliefs are. It's really easy to get to know someone on that level online, especially when things are primarily anonymous. I think even now that I'm not necessarily anonymous, it's still pretty easy for me to just like blurt out really private things about myself that I wouldn't in real life. Even here on YouTube, you know, I'm talking about a lot of things that I've never even talked about to people in real life. And there's just something about virtual environments that do that. So because of that, you do form, I think, pretty strong, solid connections with people who are, you know, well-intended. I think it's really cool to have some of those relationships. And I think, you know, as I get more comfortable with that idea, or with the idea of having met someone virtually before meeting them in real life, I have started to see some of those friendships kind of come over into my real life. I'm gonna go take this off my face before I read another thing. For that, I honestly just kind of rubbed it in and rinsed it off. I used lukewarm water because I'm going to use the Fenty skincare. I put this like on the palm of my hand because one, I saw Rihanna doing the ad, and two, it lathered a lot more than putting it on my fingertips and just rubbing it into my face. So if your hands are wet, you know, you can heat it up, warm it up, get you a nice lather. I do sometimes have my little like spa night routine. This is not it. This is a lot more because I wanted to use a bunch of different products in this video so I could show you guys. I probably wouldn't do 2 cleansers if I was doing a face mask, and I probably wouldn't do a cleanser right after the face mask, but I want it to be extra. We're extra with makeup in these videos. We're gonna be extra with, all right, I'm gonna go rub this off because my face is actually drying. So this I'm gonna actually wash off with cold water. All right, I'm gonna be extra and let this one air dry too. Also, my thing with like water temperature, I feel like this came from when I was younger and I watched, I think I want to say it was Mommy Dearest, but when she did like she dipped her face in ice cold water, and like I'm here for it. Like as cold as I can get the water, that's what I like to be to wash off my cleanser. But then also I noticed when you go to spas or go to get facials, they give you like a warm towel to begin with, or they put warm steam on your face because that really opens up your pores. That's why I start off with moderately warm water, and then to close it all up, I'll do cold water. All right, so that's drying swiftly. I don't know why my face is drying so fast. Usually it takes a minute. So Ms. Rose says, Second Life has helped me with my fear of men and sex. I've had big mental abuse and traumas dealing with it, and so springed out into depression, social anxiety, and anger issues. Since being in Second Life has seriously helped me feel more comfortable and in charge, which in honesty brought that back into real life. That's another really interesting thing too. I talk a lot about this often, like, you know, how much of what we experience and learn and the ways in which we grow in SL, how does that impact our real life? Because I think I can relate. I bring a lot of, you know, these lessons I learned in SL, or like a certain level of confidence that you get from SL back into my real life. I thought I could at one point leave Second Life and never return, but then it all came back and the therapy bill got bigger. So I came back and I've been happy. So when people tell me to take a break from Second Life, I tell them no, because Second Life and the people in it fix my head. I am not addicted. I can function in the real world, but it helps. Before I wouldn't get out of bed, work, and eat, but now the support and distraction of keeping myself busy really put me in a better place mentally. so much to unpack there. So one, like I said, bringing things back into your real life that you learn in SL. And I kind of talked about this in my body video, where a lot of like the things that I was uncomfortable with just being in my own skin that Meela was extremely comfortable with, somehow that level of comfort and confidence, you know, dipped over in my real life. I don't know how much of that was just like me growing up over the years versus, but you know, Second Life has been a part of my life for these like formidable years. You know, a lot of life events happen since then and now that I attribute to like growing and becoming a bit more self-aware about things. But you know, I wonder how much of that, you know, is related to my experiences in a virtual space. But she also mentioned something about like her not being addicted. I think a lot of people, that's their fear, or that's what they project on others. I think a lot of times people who know people are in these virtual spaces are assuming they're addicted and they have no control. Granted, I think if you have an addictive personality, it's very easy to get caught up and lost in it. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But a lot of it is there are a lot of people who like to fill a lot of time in their day, or like to fill, you know, idle time. And Second Life does give you something to do versus like going home, or say you are at home and you don't have the option to go anywhere. It gives you something to kind of fill that space. And just because you can enjoy it doesn't necessarily mean you're addicted. I think, you know, it kind of forces you to be a little self-aware and kind of in control and knowing what your boundaries and limits are. Being able to recognize that is huge. If it's something you do struggle with recognizing, or just addictive behavior might be, or tendencies might be a part of you, it could be a little challenging. But you know, a lot of people, I think that's the first thing when you're like under pressure or something. A lot of people initially recommend taking a break from Second Life, not necessarily realizing how big of a coping mechanism or healing tool that it really can be, and that experience is pretty different for everyone. You know, I think we all find certain things about Second Life therapeutic, and it's not at all related to the next person, or it's not at all the same as the next person. So a lot of people are here to build relationships, and that's what they find therapeutic. They're here to connect with people who can feel like family. A lot of people are here just to, you know, work. Brian also says I have social anxiety. I'm an introvert, but SL has helped me open up. I think I can definitely relate to this. Again, I don't know if it was the real life job that I had, or if it was just Second Life, but I fully consider myself pretty extrovert at this point in life. And like I said, I had a job that kind of forced me into it, but also rewarded me for it. So I don't know if it came from working in that environment, or if I was really able to pull some of these things and some of this like level, this confidence and just like this self-awareness from SL over into my real life. But you know, it's totally possible. My face is drying out like crazy, so I'm going to put on my toners. I have my little cotton rounds. I love these little things. I have them all over my bathrooms for cotton rounds, Q-tips. They were really cheap on Amazon, so I'll link them too. And I'm gonna use the salicylic acid, the Clean and Clear toner. This is at stores. It's like $5 something, I think $5.49. It's always a random price. But I put this on because I get my breakouts under my chin, so I'm gonna definitely put it on there. I tried their orange one. I don't remember what the orange one is all about, but that was not my friend. That one actually burned my skin. But my everyday toner is actually, I use a bunch of different Mario Badescu toners. Usually I use the rosewater one, but this one I just picked up when I went to Ulta. Instead of the rosewater, it's the witch hazel and lavender toner. The really good thing about their toners are they're just so light, and I tend to feel a little brighter after using them, and they smell so good. Like this one legit smells like lavender, and you know how calming and relaxing lavender is. I also usually burn lavender candles. I really like lavender. So Zephyr says, I had a legit traumatic experience with an ex that was scary. I've also gone through some horrible shit. Real life and Second Life has helped me start healing. I have a family now, something I've never had, and they push me to be better and see me as a human, not as a damaged person beyond repair. So that's really interesting. So that's another kind of cool thing about not, you know, being a bit anonymous, is that we all have our own baggage. And you know, the tough thing in real life is it's often known, or it's often hard to cover. So that's kind of the first impression that people get of you, and that's the first thoughts, and they make their own assumptions based on that. But in SL, you kind of remove that, the ability to remove that and get to know the person first before they kind of know some of these intimate details about you, or details that maybe in real life you wouldn't be able to hide. You know, I think I got a poker face, so you never know what's going on with me. A lot of people wear their emotions on their sleeves, or wear their history kind of on their sleeves, and it's hard sometimes in real life because people are going to make assumptions, judge you, or just not want to get to know you because of it. And I think SL is really, or virtual spaces really, are a way to not necessarily hide that, but really to, you know, come into a place where you can reveal those things about yourself once you're comfortable and once you're able and ready to have those conversations. And it creates a really safe space for that, and it creates a safe space for people to get to know you without, you know, knowing everything and judging you for it. Things in SL have transferred to my real life. Finding groups that I can go and talk about what happened to me with folks who understand is a godsend. In one of your videos, you said you never felt safe in your body, and that's also something I can relate to. In SL, I can be who I want, do what I want, have whatever look or shape I want. SL has helped me a lot with body issues in real life, and I'm doing things and wearing things that before I would be horribly ashamed of doing. My SL friends have helped me every step of the way, and I hope it remains that way. So again, there's a lot of correlation between experiences that we have and ways in which we can grow and feel confident in SL that again transfers over into real life. And you know, she's mentioning the video I did on like why my avatar looks the way it looks, and you know, some of the issues I've had in my own body, and you know, it really did. Like, I think a year ago I would never have showed my shoulders like that. That's a very, not a year ago, 5 I don't know when this happened. It happened recently though. But I, you know, there was just like a level of discomfort just in my own skin that somehow Meela's imperfections and just really over dramatic curves and, you know, clothing that I even choose for her to wear has impacted, you know, some of the choices that I make in real life. The Fenty, so this is a serum toner. So it has both toning properties and it serves as a serum. So I really love this, but it's thicker than a toner. I definitely always use this Fenty serum toner. It's part of my everyday routine now, but I feel like you can kind of tell, like it's just, this is my signature look. I feel like I look exhausted. That's the one thing. I do have an eye cream. I'm probably not gonna put it on. I'm tired. But speaking of serums, so I'm big on serums. I love me a good serum. I have 2. One I usually only use at night, the vitamin C serum by Badescu. I'm gonna show you it. This magical little beast really does have a difference. Like, I honestly didn't start seeing results from this for maybe like a few weeks after using it. And I mean, it's a little kind of expensive little thing. It's like 45 bucks. First time I ever bought, because this was also the first serum I ever bought. And I was just like, for this? But it really does last a while. And it makes you just look a lot more luminous. And I feel like I got that effect after a few weeks of using it. Vitamin C serums though, this is like your nighttime serum because it doesn't like the sun very much. So if you're gonna get this one, make it a part of your nighttime routine. And again, I mentioned that I'm oily, so I used to be really afraid of using like oil-based products as part of my skincare routine, thinking it would make it worse. But again, the issue with a lot of oily skin is that we have trouble holding on to hydration, so usually our body creates more oils than necessary. So having a really hydrating regimen can really help with that. So I'm not afraid of oils. When my skin does feel thoroughly hydrated, I have less problems with oil. Granted, I'm always gonna look a little dewy. I've come to terms with it. I'm all right with it. I'm also gonna use this super peptide serum. So this is actually, I just got this a couple of weeks ago. So this is new, and this is usually what I would put on the morning before going out, or let this go under my makeup. I wouldn't necessarily always put all 3 of these on, but again, we're being a little extra because I just want to show y'all. I mean, it's not like I'm showing you anything. It's not like it's gonna change the color or something. I'm just, you know, treating my face. I let my skin soak that in. Absorb it, honey, absorb it. And then usually, so I am going to use the Fenty Moisturizer to kind of like wrap it up, but I always put something under the Fenty Moisturizer. So the Fenty Moisturizer is oily, and my skin didn't like it. So I love the smell of it. And again, I don't, like, I've been using all 3, son of a bitch. I've been using all 3 Fenty products, so I don't know which ones are working, and I honestly just don't feel like figuring it out. So I'm gonna continue to use, I love a 3-step regimen, so I'm gonna stick with it. But I do usually put something under it. If it's nighttime, I have 2 favorites from Mario. They have this, show up. There's this caviar night cream, and they also have, damn it. So last night when I did this, I was like, oh, I was gonna do silver powder instead of a face mask, and I still forgot to do silver powder. Next video, y'all gotta tell me to do silver powder, because the silver powder is so cool and you immediately see results. My other favorite, I'm not gonna show you because it's super dirty, it's a Seaweed night cream. So this one's actually kind of cool. It smells really good, and it's actually, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? It's actually green. So I'm gonna use one of these. So at night I use one of these. Caviar is super light and fluffy, and it goes on really smooth. In the daytime though, so if you are oily, like mic drop, when I started using water-based moisturizers, I got rid of the oiliness I didn't want. Granted, again, always gonna be a little dewy, but I don't look like I'm sweating all the time. I mean, granted, if you put me in front of a bunch of lights and I'm sweating. But I started using oil-based moisturizers. Do I even have it over here? So the one that I love is the Kiehl's, I don't know if you see it, but the Kiehl's Calendula Serum Infused Water Cream with micronized calendula petals and calendula flower extract. That sounds like it smells good. It does smell good. This little shit though, this was like 50 bucks. The normal size one is 90. And I think that was on sale. It does smell so good. Crack. I might put that on for daytime because I don't want the Fenty just sitting right on top of my skin because it's a little oily. I'll do this one. If you do want a cheap, if you want a drugstore cheap version of this, I honestly think the Garnier, they have like a moisturizing gel that's sold at like CVS and Walgreens and stuff. I used that for a while before I got the Kiehl's. Granted, the Kiehl's just smells good. I feel like it's relaxing. You know, maybe it minimizes pores a little better, but the Garnier one is amazing and so good for oily skin. So I recommend that one if you don't want to go spend 90 bucks on a moisturizer. I'm gonna use the Caviar night cream. I mean, it's nothing too special. It's white. Someone in my bathroom made a sound. Do toilets just make sounds? Like, it's smooth. And it does have a bit of a dewy finish, but again, this is like my nighttime routine, so when I'm going to bed, I don't care too much about being dewy. But it's so soft. Like if you were to touch your skin after this, you would know what I mean. It's so soft. All right, let's read another. I have depression, social anxiety, and anxiety in general. I think SL has helped me with each of those, whether it's a huge amount or a little bit. With all of them, just my interactions with people have helped a lot. I feel like the two people have really helped me break down the wall that I've had up and made it easier to share my personal feelings and about things and speak my mind. My depression doesn't hit me as hard as it used to. When I wasn't playing, there would be times I didn't want to get up and just be left alone. But now it feels like if I'm feeling depressed, having a conversation amongst my friends can change my mood drastically. Social anxiety is something I've had since I can remember. Now this is something I deal with on a daily basis. When I reactivated my account, I came across Meela's videos and Discord, and I stepped out of my comfort zone and started conversations and speaking more to others without being scared or worried. In real life, it has actually helped me when having conversations with others that I didn't already know. So I think that's really interesting too, because you know, you're here usually with strangers. I think a lot of times in real life environments, you know someone around, unless you're like me, you move across country and know absolutely no one and have to get to know everybody again. But you get so used to just like approaching strangers, and some of those conversations become just like a normal part of your life that in real life now you can have some of those similar conversations but in real life. And I honestly think part of it has made me a more interesting conversationalist, because like I used to always say, well, I don't know if I'm probably a mix between introvert and extrovert, but social interactions have never been my favorite thing, and I don't know, I just don't like them. And I always say in real life I don't like those initial meetings because it's just all small talk. But I feel like in SL, you know, I don't really have small talk conversations. So I'm finding a lot when I'm just like going out in casual environments, I'm like having some of these conversations that almost sound like SL things because, you know, they're a little personal, but they're good conversations. Second Life is somewhat therapeutic to me. I feel at times I'm not so focused on the stress of everyday life, which causes my anxiety. When I'm playing, I'm not so worried. I can go explore Sims or decorate, relax, and enjoy company of others who have the same interests as I do or talking about the same things. And that's another thing too, because you're connecting with so many people from all over the world, and in ways, usually what we search for in SL or what we go visit, we usually find people there with similar interests because you're looking for what your interests are. So I always mention like me and Eugen liking, you know, comics and webtoons and manga. How has that not stuck yet? But that's something that I would have never even thought to try to find someone who shared that interest in real life. And now it's like a part of our week. Like every Friday we check in to see if we've read the latest whatever. Yeah, no, I haven't gotten used to the whole just talking to a camera. I need my hands doing something. Every time I don't have makeup on, I feel like a peasant. And I'm always just like, oh, hello. Caviar says that SL has proven that she has serious shopping issues. I tend to shop when I make myself feel better. And over the past few weeks, I realized this. But now I'm at peace with it. While real life can sometimes be a horror movie, SL brings me peace. That's another thing. I feel like SL does make you pretty self-aware. I think there are things that I've learned about myself. Again, I don't know if it's SL or if it's just me growing up with SL being a part of my life. Like I feel like I've grown up a bit virtually. But I've become very self-aware over the past few years and very in tune with what motivates me, what my interests are, you know, what brings me peace, what doesn't bring me peace, things I need to cut out, things I need to like introduce more of. And granted, all these things don't happen overnight, but I'm pretty self-aware. And there are things that I've learned about myself or things that I learned that I'm interested in that I don't think I would have ever come across that interest in real life. Lots of things at the monarchy, not just saying. So I think there's the potential to become, just to kind of get to know yourself a bit more, because I don't know what it is. What is it about virtual spaces that allows us to become really conscious of some of these things that we wouldn't have thought about otherwise? It's my own little paradise where I can just be free mentally and emotionally from the real world. In real life, I suffer from a handful of chronic illnesses, which prevents me from being able to get out of bed some days. ways. I'm not able to be around a lot of people, especially in this age of, you know, what's going on. Travel or experience things such as going to haunted houses. SL gives me the opportunity to be social and live out some things that I'll never get the opportunity to do. So my experience, SL has brought nothing but healing, plus a great feeling knowing that every time I log in, I won't receive bad news. That's another thing that I think is truly unique to SL. So you have the opportunity now to experience things that you just might not be able to do in real life. Like, you can go jumping out of planes and surfing. Granted, it's virtual, but there's something really immersive about this platform, and it does almost feel like you're experiencing a lot of things. I mean, I think that's just the way it's set up. And there are just things that are so casual that other games I don't think would even think to put in it. Like, you know, we can go to a haunted house, you can go to a restaurant with a couple of friends, you can go walk around a mall. And, you know, for a lot of people where you're not able to experience that at all in real life, it does bring a sense of realism. And I haven't experienced anything on any other platform in a similar fashion. I guess VR would be the next step, but it really does feel very immersive, and you could have a conversation just as easily as you could if the person was right next to you. I think it's Merodi. I also have moderate depression, which I've had for a few years as well. One of the worst parts of it for me is having difficulty with concentrating, more specifically when it comes to trying to think critically or engage with other people over critical ideas. It's a bit easier when doing this over text, as everything is written out in front of you, so I don't have to worry about losing my train of thought. But one place I've had some success and stayed and have enjoyed a lot is with para RP. It especially works so well because of the general roleplay etiquette and waiting for others to add in their piece to each RP scenario. So that's something else that's really unique. I did a video on, you know, how to roleplay in Second Life, and basically with paragraph roleplay, so not necessarily like the short form that you see in some places, but paragraph, there is the etiquette that people, you go in a post order and people like wait their turn, because the idea is that you're building upon everything that everyone has said, and you just, you know, the person who's in front of you, so you know after them you're going to speak, but at that point, you know, you have the time to kind of write out exactly what you want to say. And people will wait for you. And she goes on to say, so while SL certainly doesn't help with the crux of my depression, it definitely alleviates a few of my symptoms. I still feel very dewy from the caviar night cream. Alright, so I am going to go ahead and put on the Fenty Skin Moisturizer. I only use a little dollop like this because, like I said, for me it's super oily, but it smells really good and it's very soft. Alright, so now I also did want to talk a little bit about my experiences. A lot of these videos I'm really interested, like I'm really curious about how other people experience SL, because, you know, I've come to learn that we're all so vastly different and have such different motivations and such different interests, and things help us in different ways. But for me, so I've had a lot of some of these same issues. So one that really stood out, and I was almost surprised to see, I don't know why I was surprised to see, but there are a lot of people who responded saying that they've had issues with agoraphobia. So this is something that I've dealt with my entire life, and I've always created spaces or have created opportunities for me to really just not have to leave home. And, you know, while not necessarily motivated by fear originally, it manifests into fear. So even when I was a little kid, like rather than, you know, going out and playing with a bunch of other kids all the time, I started writing when I was like in 3rd grade, and I started writing fiction that young. And, you know, I think a lot of issues with agoraphobia is we usually get caught up in what others will think about us, like becoming hermits and never leaving. But I've always been like a real homebody, and I always prefer activities that can be do at home versus anywhere else. And I've always had to force myself to really, you know, be in spaces where I'm not just at home, because I'll get very comfortable in it and it'll start as comfort and again turn into fear. So even as a kid, you know, it was such a cool thing for my teachers. My parents were so supportive of it that they were okay with me like staying inside as often as I did, and I think didn't even realize it was a problem. Same thing, you know, when I first graduated college, I started a business originally just in my home, and I would have everyone that worked come to my home. We set up an office there, and, you know, you're spending all day at home. You have to really force yourself out, and it's hard sometimes. And, you know, even when I moved here, so I moved across the country, didn't have any friends here, didn't have any family here. When I first started, I worked in retail when I first started, because I thought, you know, this is a good idea. I'll meet people, I'll be forced to get out of the house. At that time, I didn't necessarily need to be doing that kind of work, but I thought it would be the best way to meet people, so that's what I did. It was like that, or they're just hammering metal bars. So for a while I was very social, but then, you know, I was over that life. Retail is not for me, and I ended up taking a job that I started off working at home, and I think that was the most damaging, especially being out here where I didn't know anyone. So when I first came here, you know, I would always force myself out. I would go out to bars by myself. I got very comfortable like doing things by myself and meeting people in like different places. But then this like weird series of events started happening. So I got mugged on a very busy street, lots of people around, very aggressive mugging. Like, he grabbed me, shoved me against the wall, took things from me, and no one, it fazed no one. People went on about their day. A few people glanced over, didn't think to do anything. And it wasn't until like I felt like I got to a safe place when I called the police. And even then, I don't even think I thought to call the police. Like, I used that Safe Trek app just because this woman would get on the phone and she was like there with me while the police came. She even called the police for me. Like, it was, I didn't even know if I called the police in this situation. I knew nothing. So that happened. I had this weird run-in with someone that was getting a little dangerous. And then I also met this guy who I was over and I was trying to reject him, and he started stalking me, and he would take like, he found my car. He would like break into my car, not like break anything. I still to this day have no idea how he got in, but I met him because he was giving me a jump because my car battery died. So I think he just knew about cars. But he would get in my car, take pictures of my car, send them to me, like thinking that was cute. I don't know. So then, I don't know, things got very uncomfortable. And, you know, I was out here, I was living alone. Granted, my building was very secure. We had, you know, security downstairs. We had a door guy. No one could get in the building if they weren't recognized. But it felt like very scary to go out. And that's when I was also working from home, and that's when I noticed I also overindulged in SL. And usually what happens with me is I also go through these phases of, so I struggle with depression in a way that isn't completely conscious. Like, I very much, like, a lot of times I just don't know it's coming. I don't know why. Nothing triggers it. It just comes on very sudden and very intense. And those are the days where, you know, I can't necessarily get out of bed. I can't do anything and I can't stay focused. And what I found when I'm in these kind of weird states, I detach from things that are real. Even like recently, like, so this was the longest period of time that I had been without seeing my family or seeing my mother. Like, it had almost been a year because of some of the travel restrictions until a couple of weeks ago when she came. And for me, like, my brain started coping with that. Like, it was like too much lonesome, too much missing. It was sad. So what ended up happening was, like, I completely detached. Like, even my conversations with the people that I miss are like, you could tell that I'm several paces out of it. But what happens when that happens to me is that I completely, like, very hyper engage in other spaces. So it could be in work, it could be on YouTube, it could be in Second Life. And for me, it becomes very manic. So it's not even like I detach and I go in bed and I can't wake up. It's I get manic and I get hyper and I super focus on things and I move at the speed of light. And I've had to really come to realize that because that impacts people around me. So at first, you know, that was me pouring it into work. And the bad thing about this is, you know, some of our jobs really reward us for being in some of these manic states. And every time I would get manic, I would do so well at work and get so many promotions and so many accolades. I ended up having to leave that job because that was one of the jobs where they were constantly rewarding me for this behavior that was kind of a result of a poor mental state. So now I'm in another job where sometimes people recognize this and like, look, girl, you really got to log off for the week. Go away, go take some time off. So that's what I appreciate about this company. So it's really, it's interesting to find companies that really look out for you, but also just knowing the type of impact that you can have on others. So I even think, you know, when I get in one of these crazy states in SL, because it'll transfer over into SL. So, you know, I look back at how we built Bayside, and, you know, Raina and I built Bayside in a matter of like a couple of days, like 2 days. We built this entire city, got all the vendors up, got all the advertising done, built all the websites, built all the social pages, took pictures, laid down grounds, and got it completely rented within a matter of like 2 to 4 days. And for me, I was in a serious manic state. And even when I look back at the impact that had on Raina, like, she was exhausted. And I mean, I appreciate this girl for being by my side, but we were so tired after that, and it was because I was hyper at it. So what I've had to really come to terms with and really recognize when I'm in one of those states, what I need to step away from. Because before, it used to be the monarchy, right? So I would get in one of these manic states where I would do everything. Like, I would change a bunch of the way our things are structured, plan a bunch of events, take photos, make a bunch of music videos, because there's always such a long laundry list of things to do. So when I'm in one of these states, I really do have to step away from the monarchy, because that is the one environment where it really supports my mania, and it supports working like a crazy person because you get immediate reward for it. So the more I went insane, the more I've made a lot of money, like constantly. And it's like not even money that I needed. It wasn't even something that I was working for, but like the more manic I got, the more thousands I was withdrawing from Second Life. So I try to stay away from situations that reward my mania because that's what happens. I go through something in real life, I get depressed and I overindulge in other places that are going to reward me for doing so. So I mean, I think you can even look back at my YouTube journey. You know, there have been weeks where I've produced 1 to 2 videos every single day of the week, and that's me just being, you know, manic. And I'm also just naturally one of those people that has to do multiple things at a time. So sometimes it's hard for people to recognize, is this just, you know, Meela being, you know, multitasking Meela who just kind of operates in that way, or has she lost her damn mind? And usually, unfortunately, when I do lose my mind, it's very heavily rewarded. I think we have expectations of ourselves and other people that reward that kind of behavior and reward it and say it's hardworking. But you know, for me, it's really, I'm detached from whatever's causing the pain or the trauma. Another thing, like I said, I'm not necessarily conscious of when I'm having anxiety or panic. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I had a panic attack that was completely sudden. I don't remember a trigger. I got really lightheaded, passed out for a minute. For the next 2 weeks, I had terrible chest pains, and who knows what brought that on. There have been times, even like when I've gone to the doctor, that, you know, I hate doctors. I just really don't like them. But like consciously, I don't realize it. So I'm at the doctor, I'm like, yeah, this is fine. And I remember the one time I went to an ER because a nail salon infected my toe. And literally they took my blood pressure and they wouldn't let me leave the hospital. I think I was there for an additional like 6 hours because my blood pressure was so high that they were very concerned. And this is me on blood pressure medication. My blood pressure is through the roof because like my body recognizes how anxious I am, but mentally I feel fine. So I'm not always very conscious of when I'm feeling anxious, and that's why I think I do a lot of things and I put a lot of things in place, especially within SL, to really protect my peace. And a lot of that is not talking to everyone who wants to talk to me, not dealing with people's issues as soon as they have them, not going on anyone else's timeline but my own. So really creating a space that I know is not going to have any sort of, you know, impact on, you know, what I deal with on a daily basis. Even when it comes to YouTube, I think, you know, for this video right now that I have now recorded 3 times, my biggest concern is like, oh my God, am I gonna have this edited and done by Friday? You know, at some point you're just like, you're setting this up. I'm setting this up for myself. So I shouldn't be feeling anxious about this all week. Because again, I'm not going to know I'm anxious about it. It's not going to be until, you know, Friday comes and the time passes by and I'm passing out from a panic attack for no reason. But I think it's important to kind of become as self-aware as possible and know what your limits are and know what brings you joy and what doesn't. And I think even when it comes to friends and people and what support looks like, it's so different for all of us, because I see that as a common theme, that other people have helped you. And also I think this is where I've gotten the most criticism, because I think we have to, when we look at relationships or friendships, we have to really look at the person as they are, and if that is beneficial to what we need in our life. I think what I see a lot in SL that makes it very uncomfortable for me or for developing friendships is people have an idea of what a friend is or what support would look like for them, and they want to project that. They expect that from you when that necessarily might not be you. Maybe that is not your magic. That's not your superpower that you're bringing into this friendship. That's not what you're offering. And I think we have to stop projecting that onto other people, because that's why I've stepped so far away from wanting to have friendships or meeting people in SL, because people have these ideals of, you know, what it looks like to really support them. And granted, a lot of times you may know, so you may be very self-aware and say, this is XYZ what I need for support, or maybe you don't. You know, who says we know what's best for us all the time? But I think, you know, when you're going to some of these relationships, just really looking at the person as who they are and if that's what you need in your life. And for me, you know, I just keep that number small. Yeah, so when I think about it, whether SL has had a positive or a negative impact, I think, you know, maybe it's the pessimist in me, because I see both good and bad in pretty much everything. But, you know, I don't think it's all, you know, fairy tales and happiness. I don't think, you know, SL could be a cure-all for anything. I don't know if it's helped me as much as it's been a crutch for me, and as much as it's just supported some of my mania in ways that, you know, people would notice in real life. People can't notice this in SL. They just think you're a superwoman, or they think you have a million people working for you and doing some of these things. So in that sense, I think it's something to be very conscious of, especially as a lot more people get comfortable with things in virtual spaces, and as we kind of move in a direction that seems like it's going to become a lot more virtual. people, that we're going to continue to connect with people in virtual ways or spaces, that it's very important to look at what some of the negative impacts could be. And while I don't think it's a terrible thing, I think it gives me something to keep my brain busy versus like what's my alternative to like lie in bed and overindulge and watch movies all day and not want to get up. I mean, or just like get some antidepressants. I don't know. I also don't like medicine, so you know, maybe it is helping and maybe this is the solution to that. Who knows? But I do know it's not healthy for me all the time. So when I don't necessarily, I used to think I was like addicted to SL in some phases. Like I would say, this is addicting, this is addictive, but it wasn't. It was just it was my crutch when I was in a really manic state, and those happen regularly. So, you know, there's nothing that's going to stop that other than being very self-aware and putting restrictions in front of me. And I guess letting people know, like letting people who care know, which is hard for me to do. So, and again, I have finished my complete beauty routine. I will very likely, well, I'm going to link all of the things that we used here in the description below. If you like videos like this, give it a thumbs up. I told you I have a million skincare routines, so there are a million products I didn't even show you. If you just like regular skincare stuff, I do a lot of this on my Instagram channel, so go follow me on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter, but I don't use it as much. Instagram is like where to be. So check out my Instagram. It's at Meela Vanderbuilt. It's at Meela Vanderbuilt. Meela Vanderbuilt. Jeez Louise. But yeah, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't, por favor, and turn notifications on. And you know, leave a comment. Let me know what your experience has been, or you know, what you witnessed in terms of just mental health issues, and whether SL has been kind of a help or a hindrance in that category. Because I mean, this video could go on forever in terms of, you know, how it can negatively impact. I think, you know, maybe we'll save that for another day, but for the most part, a lot of people said that it has significantly helped them. So I think that's a really interesting thing. It's something to really look into and consider, but you know, there's always a caveat. But all right guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for like joining me in my little boudoir as we did our little skincare routine, honey. It worked out. But you guys enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you very soon. Bye. I hope it worked. I hope my mic stayed on. Are you even plugged in? Wouldn't that be something else? I should have been checking this whole time.
Just the other day, saw you looking my way.